Hey, what's up, guys? Just want to do a quick review of TNA Slammiversary 2012. You know, this was a great pay-per-view. Really seems like TNA is building a lot of momentum, and Destination X, the next pay-per-view, looks like it's going to be great. Hopefully, Austin Aries is in the main event. You know, judging from some of the promotional stuff for the pay-per-view, it seems like Aries and AJ Styles might possibly main event that show. So definitely a lot of things to look forward to with the TNA product. Definitely seems like it's improving. Definitely, this is the hottest I think they've been in a pretty long time. So a lot of things are really going their way in a positive direction. So let's just get down to the show. Slammiversary, the 10th, the 10th anniversary of TNA, and definitely felt like a big deal. They were out of the impact zone. This Dallas, Texas crowd I thought was great. You know, Dallas has a lot of wrestling history with the Devon Erics, the Dallas Sportatorium. And overall, I just thought this was, from top to bottom, just a really, really enjoyable show. So I got really excited about the pay-per-view when I heard that Samoa Joe and Austin Aries was announced. They had a match for the X Division Championship. They opened up the show. Now, I got to talk about this first. I know a lot of you guys have probably heard me touch on this a million times, but in my opinion, the greatest moment in Ring of Honor history was when Austin Aries dethroned Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor Championship. You know, Joe was the champion for like 21 months, and Aries, beat him with the 450 splash. And, just the eruption after Aries won that match was just awesome. So, great to see them finally have a match again, this time in TNA for the X Division Championship. And, it wasn't a main event caliber match. It's kind of tough to compare it to some of the stuff they did in Ring of Honor. It's a totally different animal. You know, they opened it up. They only got about 11, 12 minutes, but they rocked the house. They really gave it their all for the amount of time that they got. Really not much you could complain about. I thought this was almost a 4-star match. It was definitely that good. You know, Aries is trying to outsmart Samoa Joe, just like he did in their other matches, just trying to, every single shot that Aries hit at Joe was just total stiffness. This was a very, very stiff match. They were really going at each other. Joe with some really nice counters to Austin Aries, discus forearms. I thought that was, got to see some good counters. Aries did a beautiful job of countering the Chiquita clutch into a pinning predicament for a nice near fall. Some great athleticism, just great back and forth action. Aries actually hits Joe with the 450 splash. Surprisingly, Joe kicks out of it. And then you just got some really, really great stuff leading up to the finish with Aries just going 100 miles an hour, just full speed, full contact right in Joe's face to hit him with the brain buster to get the win. Just everyone needs to see this match. This was so much fun. Definitely has a lot of replay value. Probably definitely the opener of the year, or at least one of the best openers of the year. Good stuff there. Next up, we actually had Kid Kash versus Hernandez. This was fun. This is short and sweet. Hernandez pretty much rocked the crowd. Showed off all of his muscle and dives, and he's just fun to watch. Hernandez. A lot of people knock him for being a goofball or kind of a dumb wrestler, some would say, but I think he's a hell of an athlete. So there we go with that. Next up, we have Devon and Garrett Bischoff taking on Robbie E and Robbie B. This is kind of crappy, I'll be honest with you, but I thought Devon Dudley or Devon actually made this match kind of watchable once he got the hot tag. All right, next up, we have a #1 contenders match. We have Rob Van Dam versus Jeff Hardy versus Mr. Anderson. This is kind of like, all three guys have kind of had their problems. Very, very controversial. All three guys with drug problems, with motivational problems, or just with, bringing the screw up with, Mr. Anderson after he, was fired by the WWE for hurting Randy Orton. So a lot of these guys have had a lot of trials and tribulations, and they're trying to make their way back up to that championship main event scene. And, this was good. It kind of a little bit sloppy for some people's taste. I think some people might actually hate this if you're really, really picky about ring psychology and everything. But, in this match, they just went balls to the wall. It was pretty much nonstop action. This is the best I've seen Jeff Hardy look in a long time. He looked very crisp. I'm not the biggest fan of Ken Anderson. I'm not a big fan of the guy at all, but I'll give him credit here. He wrestled a very smart match, picked his spots, came off very, very aggressive. And I have to say, out of all these guys, Rob kind of came off like the weakest here. He just came off the least impressive. But I'm a big Rob Van Dam fan. I think probably at Destination X, you could do Rob Van Dam versus Samoa Joe. That's a match that definitely needs to happen on pay-per-view. And, Mr. Anderson actually countered Rob Van Dam's Rolling Thunder into the, what was it called, the mic drop. So pretty awesome finish there. And Anderson actually is the #1 contender who will face Robert Roode Thursday night on TNA Impact. So 3.5 stars for that. Next up, we had James Storm actually challenge Crimson. Crimson's actually undefeated. It was a great return for James Storm. I think this is his first appearance since lockdown, if I'm not mistaken. It seems to me like they might be going for a James Storm, Robbie Roode rematch at Bound for Glory. I don't really want to see that, but after tonight's actions, I think that might happen, actually. So, yeah, James Storm, this was short and sweet. He actually beat Crimson. I'm not a big fan of Crimson, so it was a great moment for me. Next up, we actually had Gail Kim taking on Miss Tessmacher. Gail Kim, I didn't even know she was back in TNA. I totally forgot that she left WWE. And her and Miss Tessmacher had a good match. I thought Gail Kim played an awesome heel, really kind of, it was showing off for the crowd. It just got a lot of heat. I never really seen her in this kind of role before. I'm so used to her playing a babyface, but it was a great moment for Miss Tessmacher. She was really emotional. She actually dethroned Gail Kim to win the women's championship, and it was a good women's match. I'll give it about 2.5. Next up, we actually had the Abyss storyline with Bully Ray versus Chris Parks. I haven't been following this storyline at all, but this match was very, very emotional. I guess Chris Parks is supposed to be Abyss's lawyer, but correct me if I'm wrong, Chris Parks is really Abyss. And him and Bully Ray had a really, really awesome street fight. I give it about 3 stars. I thought it was pretty unique booking. The fans really sympathized with the Chris Parks character, and I thought that's what made the match kind of memorable. And, Abyss actually came from under the ring and actually screwed Bully Ray to win the match. But I thought Bully Ray was great tonight. He's just lost a lot of weight and really got a lot of heat promoting the fact that he's from New York City and, got all the fans to hate him. And I thought this was a 3-star match, a pretty cool hardcore match. Next up, we had the match of the night. Everyone needs to see this match. We have Kurt Angle and AJ Styles taking on Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. All right, so they're doing the storyline with AJ having an affair with Dixie Carter. So that's what brought a lot of life to the, to this match. But let's just focus on the match right here. This is definitely one of the best matches of the year. I'm going to give it 4.25 stars. This match totally reminds me why we love TNA. Why everybody fell in love with TNA in 2005, 2006. And all these guys just reminded everybody of how great they are. AJ, Daniels, Angle, even Frankie Kazarian. What can I say? I mean, this match just proves to me that Angle. It's a shame that he hasn't been utilized in tag teams more often because, when he tagged with Benoit in 2002, it made for some of the best wrestling I've ever seen on television. And, we never really seen Angle really tag up since then. And he tagged up with AJ Styles, and him and Daniels and Kazarian just had, such an awesome match. Just had so much intensity and athleticism. And for me, that's 2 of the most important things for me. And just some of the spots were just insane. Once Angle got the hot tag, he just brought so much energy to the match. I mean, let me just talk about some of the spots. Angle actually did a double German suplex on Daniels and Kaz, which came off awesome. Christopher Daniels actually goes for the best moonsault ever. Totally misses Angle. Angle counters it into a German suplex and over-rotates Christopher Daniels into a moonsault. And, Daniels lands flat on his stomach. That was an awesome spot. AJ, the guy's phenomenal. After 10 years, that's the thing about, professional wrestlers. AJ's kind of old now. He's like 34, 35. In the NBA, they'd be saying that's ancient. But in pro wrestling, it's still not really that old. AJ still has a lot left in the tank, and so does Kurt Angle. These are probably the 2 best wrestlers from the last decade. You can make the argument that Angle and AJ from 2000 to 2010 were the 2 best wrestlers in the United States, and now they're the tag team champions. The finish was awesome. AJ actually busted out a shooting star press off a springboard shooting star press off the middle of the ring to take Christopher Daniels out. That enabled Angle to hit Kaz with the ankle lock. Awesome finish, awesome match. Like I said, this really reminds you of why we used to love TNA. So definitely good stuff there. Next up, we had the main event. We had Robert Roode, the TNA champion, taking on Sting. I thought this was okay. I thought it was decent. I think it's cool to use Sting in a kind of like an Undertaker role, have him wrestle from time to time, but definitely not wrestle every single month. I was fine with this. Roode was kind of, trying to get away from Sting the whole match, trying to get disqualified, trying to just, get out of Hell's way. That's pretty much what it was. But, Sting tried to do the best job he could to, take the fight to Robert Roode, to take the championship off of him. I thought Sting looked actually pretty decent here, considering he hasn't been in the ring for a while. I mean, definitely not a main event I would like to see. This is more for the live crowd. I don't think anyone really wants to order a pay-per-view to see Sting in 2012. But, the finish, you actually have Robert Roode take out one of James Storm's beer bottles and just nail Sting in the head with it. So that kind of foreshadows that maybe the Robert Roode and James Storm feud might continue. I'm not really sure, but definitely not a main event that's worth going out of the way to see. It was not bad though. I'll still give it about 2 3/4. I don't think anyone was expecting much from it, but it still doesn't affect the overall. It doesn't bring the pay-per-view down that much. But like I said, you had some great stuff on the show. Samoa Joe versus Austin Aries was really, really awesome. RVD versus Jeff Hardy versus Anderson was good. The tag match was fucking awesome with Angle and AJ. And the Chris Parks and Bully Ray match was a lot of fun as well. So definitely check out those matches. Hope you guys enjoy the video and take it easy. Oh yeah, before I go, let me talk about Destination X. Looking like it's going to be a stacked show. I would go. You might be able to do AJ and AJ Styles and Kurt Angle for the tag team championships against Samoa Joe and Austin Aries. I wouldn't mind that. I don't really think they should go in that direction, but most likely I think we should see Austin Aries versus AJ Styles. They've only had one match in Ring of Honor, which was kind of forgettable. It was good, but so many people said it was disappointed that it's at the point right now where it's kind of become a lost gem. So Austin Aries versus AJ Styles, I could see that as the main event of Destination X. I think Samoa Joe versus Rob Van Dam, I think that'd be cool. Kurt Angle versus Christopher Daniels, we've never seen it on pay-per-view. I think that should happen. So that's about it. I think those are the 3 big money matches there. But I think TNA has so much talent. This pay-per-view reminds you that they still have so much talent. They got 5 or 6 guys that you could argue are the best. There's 5 or 6 of the best guys in the United States right now. So definitely check out the pay-per-view, and that's pretty much it. All right, take it easy.